What's up, students? What's up, students? I'm outside of San Angelo, Texas in the Chaparral biome. Now I want to start going over some ecosystem vocabulary. Now, take notes, listen carefully. I would write this down for you, but obviously I'm in the bush. We're going to start with a few things. Population, for instance. Population versus individual. This is a young mesquite tree. This is an individual tree. Now, all of the mesquite trees around here would be the mesquite tree population. All of the plants around here, if I was to include the prickly pear cacti, this is a juniper here, and I don't know what this thing is, but it sure is pretty. Some kind of cacti. Anyway, if you were to include all the plants together, you would call this the Chaparral plant community. The community is multiple populations. If I start to include the actual structure of the ecosystem, the rocks, the soil, water, you can see where water has moved through here the last time it rained. It doesn't rain very often in the Chaparral, so you can see where it rained days and weeks afterwards. You can see the signs of the rain. If we were to include the soil, well, or at least the abiotic part of the soil, the rocks and things, the water, the air, those are the abiotic factors. One of the abiotic factors that people miss, you think about the mineral component of soil. Soil is actually a matrix of living and non-living things, but people think about the mineral part of soil, think of water, think of air. But one of the abiotic factors that's critical in every ecosystem is solar radiation. And just to prove it to you, look behind me here, you see what intense solar radiation does. Now watch when there's any kind of shade at all. See? This mesquite tree has provided shade, and look how the ecosystem changes underneath it. And as soon as you get to the edge of the crown, the solar radiation is much more intense, and the entire ecosystem changes based on that addition or subtraction of solar radiation. If you were to take all the communities, all the biotic factors, and combine them with the abiotic or non-living factors that go into an ecosystem, that's what makes our ecosystem. Now, if you take all the ecosystems that have a similar climate, that's called a biome, right? So I'm right now in the Chaparral biome, and it's right now about 90 degrees. It's going to get up to 107 today. It's going to be 108 tomorrow. And you can probably see behind me, this is a semi-arid landscape, which means that it is almost desert. Rains very little altogether year-round. There's a very long, very rough dry season here. All of the organisms that live in the Chaparral are adapted to fire. As you'll notice, there really are no big trees at all. That's one of the things that characterizes this, separates this from a savanna. This is almost no trees, and what trees do live here are not going to get more than about 20 feet tall tops. Here, it's going to be massive temperature fluctuations like in a desert. It's going to be windy, it's going to be hard, it's going to be fire. These are rough seasons here. Even the winter's pretty rough in the Chaparral, but this is a fairly extreme environment because of the climate. And wherever you find Chaparral, if it's in California, if it's in the Mediterranean, if it's here in Texas, if it's in northern Mexico, wherever you're going to find Chaparral, all the organisms that live in that Chaparral biome or ecosystem are going to be pretty specialized, because it's the more extreme the conditions get, the abiotic conditions get, the more extreme and the more unique, the more specialized the animals and plants become, right? Because they're adapting to this extreme environment, so their adaptations are fairly extreme. The same is true when there's a huge biotic community, like in the rainforest. You're going to see some pretty extreme adaptations because there's so much competition for absolutely everything, because there's such a huge biotic community. So the abiotic factors and the biotic factors can totally dictate how an ecosystem survives and how healthy it is.